the agenda for today is to talk a little bit about this book that we're all excited about, who the agents are, where some of the stories came from, a little bit about each agent will introduce themselves. And then we're going to ask our VIPs, Jens and Scott and Donovan, about how this resonates with them, the topic of the book and anything in the book in particular. And then we've got some Q&A. So if there's questions you have that we can answer, we will do our best, and feel free to ask about anything. And we will try to do that. And if we still have a bit of time left over, then we've got some couple of backup questions that we hear, some frequently asked questions that people ask us, such as what is this poking the hornet's nest, and how did the creation of this book go, and things like that. So we've got that just in a little bit in the background in case some of the questions don't. We don't have enough questions. We still have a bit of time, and we hope to wrap up right around 2, if not a few minutes before things go well. Hi, Agent 14.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I'm Agent 77, and my name is Brent. And again, I want to welcome you all, and thank you so much for giving up a little bit of your time today to talk about the book that we're all excited about. I want to answer a couple of questions first off, just to kind of break the ice and maybe get the brain going a little bit. First of all is about the characters. Now, I'm not going to do a poll or anything and ask how many of you have read the book or looked at the book, because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But that said, hey, Jens, thank you. Oh, by the way, if you do a selfie, we're going to do something special. So if you do a selfie with you in the book, that would be awesome. I didn't even think of that. When we talk with the agents about different marketing stuff, we're not marketing. I'm a geek. I can't call the agents geeks. They can say it themselves or not, but I'm definitely a geek. I'm not a marketing person. So if you got any tips, let us know. But one of the things we get asked a lot is, hey, where do these characters come from, right? They're quite colorful, and are they somebody I know, and things like that. And the answer is they're a combination of different personas that we have encountered as the agents of chaos for decades. And in fact, some of those personas are, folks that I've met years and years ago. So Mr. Maverick, the CIO, is based on a combination of CIOs and CTOs that I've met over the years. Now, I use San Antonio as the bio because really when I started my official career, I was kind of unofficially coding at 18 on the side. But as things progressed, I was in Texas, and then talking to Agent 13 and 9. We were chatting about different leaders that we've come across. So that's one example. Mr. Barker, the IT manager, who is that command and control kind of person again, that's lots of folks we've met. So if you're wondering, is this a person that these agents are trying to pinpoint or anything like that? The answer is no. But if it resonates with you, then hey, those people are out there, including some of it is ourselves sometimes. So it's something that's just come up over the years, and they're a combination of personas. So we hope we got that right with some of the folks, like Wiggle. I haven't written the bio on Wiggle yet, but she's the kind of person where you see on these emails all the time, but never shows up to the meetings, never gets involved in doing any work. So they're kind of that person that's there and then slide away as soon as the project kicks off and things happen, but always has a real voice at the beginning. So there's different personas and different behaviors that we wanted to capture to try and make this realistic and practical in terms of, as you read the book, can you see someone like that? Is some of that the way that I act? And what can we do to make ourselves awesome and really get the DevOps mindset? So hopefully that clarifies a little bit. The next question is about the work experience. So again, all of us have had these work experiences. And when I met Willy 2018 at the Vancouver DevOps conference, he was doing a fantastic presentation on ring deployments. He was working at Microsoft, and it just blew my mind, because I was working on some other things, and I thought, hey, this is an excellent thing we could add. And a book was in the back of my mind. So I met Willy and we chatted about it, and his experiences were, some of them were mirrored mine. And then with Matthew as well, at WorkSafe and other places, we had similar kind of people asking, what's Agile, DevOps? confusing the two and all this. So we really thought, hey man, there's something here. So let's form these agents of chaos. Let's poke the hornet's nest and see what comes out. And of course, the book came out. So that's my little bit. Now I want to turn it over to the agents to give a little bit of an introduction to themselves and answer two questions. So we're going to answer two questions with the agents. First question is who you are and where you're from. And the second one is why did you co-author, illustrate, get involved with the book? So let's start with Agent 9.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I was born and raised in India, and I started my career as an RJ, and interestingly enough, moved from the recording studio into the corporate boardroom around the 1990s. And yeah, my name is Mathai, and I'm Agent 9. At first, as to why we co-authored this book, I actually had my doubts. Because it actually takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there. A lot of people talk about many things, but it takes courage to put yourself and your thoughts out there. So I said, well, on a dare, why not? And I think as agents, we all wanted to tell a story, and we weren't really afraid to poke the hornet's nest. And realizing all the three of us, the agents that we call ourselves, we were all like-minded. I think that was one of the major reasons why I said, all right, I'm happy to join the bandwagon. And I'm glad I did. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matthew. And we're so happy to have you because you just add another dimension that Willy and I just didn't have. So that's brilliant. Okay, now we're on to Agent 13, sir.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. I'm Agent 13, also known as Willy Peter Schab, not Schwab. I was born in Switzerland, grew up in sunny South Africa, and have been or am a resident in beautiful British Columbia since early 2009. Where did the stories come from? Well, from the mid-80s, I had the privilege of basically gathering invaluable experience and working for organizations such as the Swiss Bank Corporation, Burroughs, Unisys, Digitron, BBD, Microsoft, and currently WorkSafe BC. And being part of Microsoft's digital transformation, which probably Donovan can speak a lot on, really inspired my passion for the DevOps mindset, and in particular for Donovan's crisp definition of what is DevOps, which we have actually copy pasted into the book with permission of Donovan. So make sure that you have a look at that as well. I've always been a community and collaboration focused software engineer, as you know, Brent. And so therefore poking the hornet's nest, as we say, and sharing my DevOps mindset, experience, insight in the what I would now call the fun book adventure was a real no-brainer. So it was a real fun adventure, at times stressful, but I think we told all our stories one way or the other, as Matthew would say.
Awesome. Thank you. And again, Willy was a lot deeper into the technical stuff, which we needed for this book. So that was really, really important. And with his background, it just, the book would not be at all where it is without him. So thanks to Agent 13 on that. And of course, now can't forget Agent 14, our illustrator. He can recall probably times we chatted quite a bit about getting these character pictures. But the thing about Agent 14 is he picked it up. Like this guy I could just tell him the kind of person, and he just throw me a picture of this. I was like, how'd you do it, man? You caught it. But it might be the years, like 10 years plus years that I've known him when I was in the UK. So without further ado, Agent 14.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, so as Brent says, I met him about 10 years ago in Windsor. So I live in Oxford now, and when he came to me with just these brilliant ideas, it was just so easy to start drawing, really, because my imagination was just set alight really by some of the concepts, and even though I didn't fully understand DevOps at the time, some of the workflow we worked together to produce the drawings, I was getting to understand it better, and obviously through the book as well. Yeah, so I've really enjoyed every drawing. Really, it's been great. Yeah.
Thanks, Agent 14. And again, with I've seen David's drawing. The first time we went over to dinner at Dave's place, him and his wife invited us over, and I saw this really cool drawing that he did. And he was really into, I think, Marvel and some other comics and stuff. And I was just blown away. And his background is electrical engineering. So I was like, wow, you've got a super cool talent. We got to get together and do some stuff. So even back then, actually, which kind of segued to me, it's, writing a book. Book has always been in the back of my mind around it. How do we put Agile into practice? And I have to say, the first time I came across Scott Ambler, his writings, and then Mark Lyons when I was at IBM in 2009 just blew my mind, because I was frustrated with enterprise architecture. I was frustrated that we had this ivory tower, we weren't connecting, and XP and Scrum were starting to pop up. I'd worked on some projects with BMW at IBM and others, and it wasn't working for enterprise architecture. And lo and behold, we saw this architecture owner thing, and that just took me down the path of learning more about it. So that's really kind of what got me into, well, why aren't we doing this with development operations more? We're making great teams that can write code, but we're not implementing the things, getting it out there. So that kind of got me thinking and making notes and doing some white papers and stuff. And, when I came back to Canada, started up my business, TacTech, it was really about how can we bring focus to velocity on value. And so focus on value, velocity, I should say. Should get that right by now, 4 years later. But again, it was a lot to do with Mark Lyons, so Louise Lyons' husband, and Scott, that really got, what they did was brilliant. So a lot of the ideas and concepts are all the agents, but was, definitely influenced by the goals that are there, and they're out there. They're things that make sense, common sense too. So common sense approach. So I'm here in Victoria, and as I said, I was out in England. I lived in Europe for a good number of years, from about 2002 to 2016. So I've traveled a bit, and so yeah, a lot of little different flavors and personas have come up from years of traveling too. And I know Willy, Agent 13's traveled a lot, and Agent 9. So it's supposed to be diverse, if I can say that word, diversity in there as well. Cool. Right. Okay. So that's it from the agents for the moment. What we'd like to do then is kind of open the conversation a bit up around the VIPs now. So with Scott and Donovan and Yen, we'd like to ask you, first of all, to introduce yourselves, if that's okay. And if there's anything in the book or our topic that we're talking about that resonated with you. So maybe I'll start just looking at the top here. I'll start with Scott, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Scott Ambler, along with Mark Lyons. I'm one of the co-creators of the Discipline Agile Toolkit, which is PMI's Agile offering. So one of the things the toolkit covers is, of course, discipline DevOps. So how do you address DevOps at the enterprise level into all aspects of DevOps? And the thing I liked about the book, well, I liked a bunch of things about the book, but I'll focus in on one. And the fact is, it's realistic, and it tells a story that resonates and that you can relate to. And so anybody who's worked in multiple organizations, or even if you're just if you've just been working in one for the last few years, you can often, and Brent was hinting at this earlier, you can often see the characters either in yourself or in your colleagues, or some of the people that you may have to run into every so often. And it's funny, it's sort of like, in some ways, sort of like reading Dilbert, where you can somehow see the character, you can often see those characters, but now in this case, in a DevOps implementation environment. And I think I think the experiences and the backgrounds of the authors clearly come out, and they've been there, done that, and it shows in the writing. And I think that's critical. And I think this is why this book will resonate with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. And Scott wrote our foreword, which again, I'm eternally grateful for that. It was brilliant. He picked up right away about this voyage So I love that. So yeah, it was a perfect forward to the book. That was great, and thank you for your reviews and stuff, Scott. That's really awesome. Thank you so much. Next, I have Yen. I see you next. So I hope that's okay. I pass over to you, sir.
Sounds good. So my name is Jens. And I've been involved in the IT game for many years, primarily in the public sector, university IT, broader government IT, working with a few of the folks on this screen, as everything from a programmer to a sysadmin to a network admin to a CISO to a director of strategy to a chief architect to a chief technologist. And these days I hang my hat working primarily with public sector clients, helping them with their cloud, their agile, and most recently their DevOps transformations. And so the book resonated strongly with me, right? I saw both myself in the book. I saw a lot of the folks that I've been conversing with over the years in the book. I think the thing that really grabbed me when reading through it is there's enough of a story that makes you want to keep turning the pages, but there's so much depth in it. If you look at the actual reference materials, if you look at all the links to the surveys, to both the websites of the agents themselves, but all the other materials that they reference, you could spend a lot of time and you could use this not just as a light read, but really helping you build a practice and helping your organization move forward. And so that's what I very much appreciated. I've read a lot of other books where the story is the most important part and it doesn't necessarily, maybe at the back, there's an index of reference. This kind of embedded in each chapter, all right, you want to dig deeper? Here's a link that lets you dig deeper and find out more about this particular subject. And I really appreciated that about the book.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your input too. And that's great. And so you caught that. We wanted to make it light enough that you can read it through it, but still have lots of deep and further discussions. And of course, if you write these books, as you know, Scott will also know, they could be, well, you need encyclopedia. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Great. Next we have Donovan. Donovan, please introduce yourself.
I'm Donovan Brown. I used to be a DevOps PM, but I just moved to Mark Rezenovich's incubation team. But you never get away from DevOps. Once you start implementing it, you try to apply it everywhere that you go. And now I'm on the incubations team. I'm figuring out how all these new ideas are going to actually have a nice DevOps implementation applied to it as well. Obviously, the book resonated with me because I'm in it, right? So that's an easy answer, right? When I saw the avatar in there and the way that you guys embraced the definition and were able to use it as a common thread, right? Throughout the book, you keep going back to the people and the process, and it's just really flattering just to be that people have latched on to that sentence so well, and that it kind of encompasses what it's open enough to where you can have a really good conversation about the topic, because that's kind of part of what makes it special, is that you understand what I'm saying, but it's going to be a little bit different for you than it is for them. As far as the characters, I mean, I was a consultant for 7 years. My best friend Abel and I would always text each other, and we would just say, "I found him," because every person was at every company. Their name was different. Like, and there's that guy who wants to upstage that person, or that guy who doesn't want to go to the meeting, or they have that same persona. And it was funny that, yeah, you see those people everywhere that you go. The only thing different is their name, but that persona, that attitude, certain people gravitate towards certain areas of the organization. So that's always fun to read books like that. They're just like, yep, I know that person. Or as Scott said, I am that person, which is also interesting sometimes it happens. So I'm just really flattered to be involved, and that you have adopted the definition the way that you did. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Donovan, for sharing that. And, that was something right at the beginning of the book. Every time we walk into an organization, right, and they talk about Agile, they talk about DevOps, these overloaded terms, everybody has a different view. Everybody has a different definition. So we said, well, should we use, well, they're safe, they're disciplined Agile, there's all this. And then, so, Agent 13 said, well, how about this guy, Donovan, who works at Microsoft? I'm like, Microsoft? Well, okay, they make Azure DevOps. That's awesome, right? But come on.
The name is horrible. The name is so bad. Oh my gosh. And I love the fact that you pointed out you can't buy it. I'm like, no, it doesn't even matter if the product has it in this name. You're not DevOps. You got like, yes, thank you. The name was so bad. The name is so bad.
Donovan, tell us that you had nothing to do with the name.
Nothing. No. I had pitched several different names for the product before then. I even said, leave it VSTS if you're going to name it this. Like, you're not helping us at all. And I can't tell you the number of tweets and DMs I got the day that was announced. It's like, but Donovan, I thought you said you couldn't buy it. I was like, you still can't. Like, wait, I don't care what we called it. You still cannot buy DevOps.
And that was unexpected Like it wasn't a dig.
Oh, it was
That was
horrible.
just a point. But to your point, absolutely, you can't buy this thing. But yet, you know, so many organizations, what do? They sell it, right?
Yeah.
They say, CIO says an edict, or you know, we're going to do DevOps. That's what we had Maverick at the beginning, right? I remember the 3 agents. That's what we said. It's like right away. People confuse Agile and DevOps. They're complementary, but they're not the same thing. And 2,
Agreed.
they just want to go buy it. Like you can go see. I'm not going to mention any frameworks or anything out there, but they're like, oh yeah, I see that on a page. I just want to build that. And you go, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the book focuses a lot on that transition, but the same problem was true in Agile world. I was a process consultant. And I sold Team Foundation Server before I joined Microsoft. And I remember, I'll never forget this day where I'm installing TFS for this company, and a person leans over my shoulder and says, oh, thank God, now we can do Agile right. And I like stopped, I locked the computer, and I turned around, I was like, you don't need software to do Agile right. Like it has nothing to do with what I'm installing right now. You give me a sticky pad and a whiteboard, and I can do Agile correctly. Like, please don't think that these tools are going to solve your problems for you. And it's the same with DevOps. It's a mindset. It doesn't matter what tool chain you use. If you're not delivering value, it's useless. Like you're wasting time. So it's a problem that we keep repeating. It was Agile, and now it's DevOps, and next it'll be microservices. Someone's going to say something like, "Oh, thank God you gave me Dapper. Now I can do this right." I'm like, you could have done it right before.
Exactly, and that's why, you know, I really thought long and hard about having a 6-piece shooter with the silver bullet inside for Maverick, but you know, it doesn't exist. So we'd be given the wrong message.
Sure.
Anything from the VIPs I want to add?
Well, actually, you know, a six-piece shooter would have been interesting if you kept missing, or actually if you hit, you know, if you shot the werewolf or shot the problem and then it shrugged it off and said, really? And then, yeah, but anyways, so that would be it. But, you know, I think to Donovan's point is, you know, the marketing people are going to do what the marketing people are going to do. You just learn to love them. The good news about marketing people, they're fun to party with. So, you know, you got to keep them around for that. So, but yeah, you can't buy DevOps. You can't buy Agile. You can't buy DevOps. And, you know, there's so many organizations that run aground on that, or they think that, you know, we can do it in a 3-month project. We're just going to train a few people. We're going to install some tools. We're going to put some posters up, pat ourselves on the back, probably throw a party, and then we're good to go. And then we'll move on to the next fad. And it just doesn't work like that. It just does. It has absolutely zero chance of working like that. And yeah, and the really sad thing, and if you've never done anything like this before, okay, fine. You know, you're gonna learn the hard way. But when this is like the 8th or 9th time you've made this same mistake, come on, right? Like, can you not pay attention to this one? But anyways, but it enriches the consultants, and that's
it does. It does. And there's one point where you say that this is something you never stop doing, like the OODA loop you kind of mentioned too. And I thought that was really important too, because I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, so Donovan, when are we going to be done with DevOps? Like, when are we going to achieve it? Like, you're never done. Like, no matter how fast you're going, find how you can go faster tomorrow. Like, we're constantly doing that at Microsoft. We were 3 years, now we're 3 weeks, but we're not done. Like, we want to be 3 days, and then we want to be 3 hours and 3 minutes, and we want to push a button every time we have a feature ready to go. But it's a journey that you start there is no end. No matter what you've done, there's a part in that process that you could probably remove a little bit more friction from, that you could probably make a little bit more efficient, make more reliable, make more secure. So let's go do that. And a lot of people think, okay, we've gotten CI done, and now we're going to go do something else. And they never revisit that pipeline, or they never rebuild. I'm like, it's okay to go back and reevaluate, because now that everything else is faster, that's the bottleneck again. And that's okay. Let's go see if there's new innovations, new technology out there that allow you to do that better than you did before. And I'm constantly reviewing my pipeline, figuring out where the friction is and where can I go take it out. And I do it one piece at a time, which is another thing I encourage people to do, is like, don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to figure it all out. I just said this yesterday. I felt like a cat being teased with a laser pointer in a meeting with a customer the other day. Like, none of you are saying the same thing. I have no idea where we're supposed to focus on. Like, I said, if I was a consultant, I would not sign up to help you. And I think that's when they finally snapped out of it. I'm like, yeah, there's nowhere where you're going to start. Like, the next meeting, you need to tell me what you want to focus on. And they just don't, right? It can be very frustrating, but it's the world we live in. Like you said, consultants make a mountain of money off of those customers because they don't know what they want to focus on.
Yeah, so that's why we had to write this book. I mean, continuous improvement, to your point, right? I remember, you know, Agent 13 and I having these discussions too, and Agent 9. And we wanted to bring that lighthouse with the beacon. You know, it's continuous improvements, continuous journey. And, you know, when you have the right mindset, we were talking about the DevOps core mindset, that reflects on a lot of stuff we've heard from Discipline Agile, even Safe, and other really good ideas. And so we said, but you know, when are your customers going to stop asking for something? Well, hopefully never, because if they do, you lost them. So let's just bite the bullet, the silver bullet. You want the silver bullet? It's a never-ending thing, right?
And that was going to be my point from earlier, is that I think as humans, and particularly as C-level humans, we're addicted to the silver bullet, right? What's the one thing, bring it in, buy the consultancy that can make a change for me. And I mean, the book very much stresses it's people over process over tools, but so much of DevOps, it's a culture change. And we know culture changes, they're never one in and done, they're never quick. And they require continuous reinforcement, because culture is a living, growing, changing thing. And so when you talk about and you think about how do I introduce DevOps, because you are necessarily talking about and thinking about a culture change, it's not a once and done, it's not a product you implement, it's something that you continue to evolve and grow as your organization evolves and grows. If your organization is static, I'd argue your organization is probably dying. And so because your organization is constantly growing and changing, your DevOps practice needs to constantly grow and change.
But Donovan, I think
conversation twice a week with Willy, actually, about how this is a people, process, and cultural problem over a throwing more tools at it.
Yeah.
We had that conversation just yesterday, Willy, for the second time this week. It comes up all the time.
But Donovan, I think you're breaking a lot of hearts here, because I personally thought that inviting a bunch of people into MS Teams and putting them together creates the team, creates a team, and I'm done. That's it. No,
not at all. Not at all. Yeah, our naming is
called Teams.
Yeah, our naming is the worst. It's the worst. But you got to remember, we also created something called Zune, right? Like, we are not good at this. We are not good at this.
Yes.
The products are awesome. The names are horrendous.
No.
Once again, love your marketing people.
Oh no! Oh, for sure. They actually have great T&E. They sent me all over the world to speak at conferences. So like, no, I love them, but man, they hurt me sometimes. They hurt me deep.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better. Myself, Kevin, and Jens there, because this is a constant discussion, and as we talk about it, this book is really around people, and how we make it happen, and it's a learning. You know, I was a command and control manager, like I was, you know, definitely in there, and I think about my bad behaviors when I was right, and it's like, okay, well, I thought of other. So it wasn't, you know, some of it was projected, right, but it was like, how can we be better? And so we can enable our teams to become awesome. If their teams aren't awesome, I feel personal responsibility. And so that's kind of what we're hoping that kind of bleeds into it, because we want awesome people so they feel safe. Now we've got the pandemic. Now it's time more than ever to really think about how can we bring that psychological safety and support, which will turn into performance. It's going to turn into good energy, that efficiency and everything else. But we do need to review those pipelines, like Donovan said. Like, once you got to go back, right? Things change. Willy knows this. You're dealing with pipelines day in, day out, I think, Willy, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I have regular chats with Kevin from our security engineer, and yes, we go through this OODA loop continuously. And what is frustrating is you actually have to pull these personas back into the loop every time to say, remember what we said last time when we actually passed through the station? We're going to say the same thing again, because it's a continuous loop of improvement, of learning.
And it's hard to break the mindset that silver bullet exists. It's hard to break that mindset in some people. And it's hard to look at it as a people and culture thing rather than a tool thing. It's hard. So that's why I'm glad this book exists.
Yeah, I think it was Jeffrey Snover who said that the biggest deterrent to implementing DevOps is success. And I think that's why it's such a big problem with people. If you've been successful without it, I'm not changing anything, especially if I'm the biggest in my industry. Like, we're winning. Like what we're doing is good. I just need you to like tweak this or tweak that. I don't need a big like transformation. Like, yeah, you do, because that little dot in your rearview mirror that you think is insignificant is a motorcycle screaming up on you faster than you've ever understood. And by the time it passes you and you realize you need to catch up, it's too late, right? Because these people are born in the cloud. They've been doing Agile and DevOps from day one. They are accelerating faster than you imagine. And That's why those big, and it's so sad because the big like these big behemoths, they have all the collateral they need, they have all the expertise they need, they have all the data they need to outperform any newcomer. But it's the people that don't understand that you're not harnessing that data correctly. You don't know what you don't know. And just because you're the biggest now, what you did 30 years ago to become what you are today doesn't work today, right? It doesn't work in this completely disconnected world. It doesn't work in a way where you can't go to the grocery store or go see your family anymore. It works differently now. And what's interesting is those companies that were already implementing DevOps and lots of automation, the pandemic didn't hit them as hard as it hit everyone else. Because deployment was still just a push of a button or an approval. Like it's like this stuff already, we didn't have to be in our offices before. We were, because it was great for collaboration and things like that. But to deploy software, that is me getting an email and saying, yeah, I like that. And then the rest of it just happens, right? And companies who are now reeling from this weren't as far ahead on their DevOps journey as they thought they were. And they're seeing that full force, that holy crap, like we really have a lot more to do. And my litmus test for any customer is, what does a developer have to do to get code into production? If their answer is anything other than commit code, then you have work to do. Because as a developer, all I should do is push my changes to a repository, and my changes should make their way into production. And if that's not the case, tell me where that biggest friction point is, and let's go talk about that today, and not let's go fix the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking a little bit about friction processes and things, back to the book, I don't want to forget about our amazing editor. So Lauren, I'm looking at you. She's gone, sorry, you're an agent, whether you like it or not. So Lauren was instrumental in getting us agents aligned up too, and making sure that when we press commit, it did get it merged, and we didn't create too many branches and then the master blowing up in our face, right? So Lauren, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just want to say thank you. And for you, dealing with 3 authors, right? That was a lot to juggle, because when we first had a conversation, you're like, ooh, I don't know. Can I just ask you how that was?
Sure. Well, first of all, I was honored to be a part of this. This team was very collaborative, and I have edited many books, several with multiple authors, and this one it went very smoothly. They really did work as a team. They practiced what they were preaching in their story, and I've actually edited several books where Scott's been a part of, in some way, shape, or form. Scott, I'm not sure if you recognize that, but I was actually familiar with the topic before I edited, so it was kind of nice there. But I thought you guys did a really good job. I think I have edited about 6 or 7 books on this topic, and this one was fun. It was informative, but it kept my attention. And I mean, as a reader, as the editor, of course, it kept my attention. But it was a fun journey, and I felt like I was able to take something away from it that I hadn't ever taken away from the previous books on the subject. It was fun, and the authors were very collaborative and welcomed feedback pretty well. I have to say that I was explicitly restricted from using contractions, and I did the best that I could. But it was a fun process, and I'm really hopeful that this is the success that it should be, because you guys deserve it. You worked really hard. I made you rewrite so a lot. So you guys did a really good job staying on topic and working together. So I'm proud to be a part of the team.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing that. And
And just for the records, the contraction was just Agent 13.
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say it was automaton, the robot, but you wrecked it. Oh no.
No, automaton and Agent 13 are friends. So yes, it's both of us.
So no contractions for Agent 13 automaton. That was one of the constraints we put on our editor. Some of the things that go behind the book scenes, right? You learn as you go. So yeah, it was great. So thanks again, Lauren, because we did do a rewrite partway through, and I know I'm kind of going a little bit off topics here because we get touching into the Q&A. No, nobody has any questions? Okay.
In that case, you can cover the why poking the hornet's nest.
Yeah, let's do that.
I know Matthew is waiting to answer that question.
I know he is chomping at the stick. So, sir, Agent 9, would you like to give us a bit of overview on where that came from?
I'm assuming you're asking me to answer the poking the hornet's nest question, because I was the one who was asking the most questions during the process. because yeah, I'm known to have got myself into trouble by asking uncomfortable questions, and to be honest, I think at one point in time in my mind, and I don't know if I discussed it with the agents, I was thinking the name of the book should be Poking the Hornet's Nests, because all our chats was about, can we ask that question? Is that okay to ask that question? And we're like, who cares, right? Yeah, no. I think we briefly spoke about it earlier when we said that there is so much confusion around the concepts of Agile, the concepts of DevOps, and no matter how complementary they are, some people forget that they're not synonymous. And I think that's where we started asking those uncomfortable questions to the fictional characters in our book, where we were able to help them understand that, there is that disassociation in concepts, but there is the collaboration in the fundamentals of it. So I think that's where the poking the hornet's nests were coming from, which is also one of the predominant reason for why I wanted to co-author the book, because our man David, he agreed to actually do the images. Because the one thing I think as agents we said, or I think I said, was I don't want to write a book which doesn't have pictures, because I write a book that I would read, which are books with pictures, and all agents, we were all absolutely in sync. So David, thank you very much. You're one of the reasons I agreed to co-author the book.
Awesome, Agent. Thank you. And I know we had these conversations, which might lead to a question, how many times have we been sitting in a room and you've got someone, nobody's asking the question, right? The critical question. The elephant's sitting right there, but nobody wants to address it. And if you don't address it, you're just not going to go forward. But part of what we have to do is address roadblocks, right? Things that are not allowing us to go forward. And it might be because you've got the CIO in a room or somebody else, and so you feel like uncomfortable. Well, that's wrong. Get your stick out, poke the hornet's nest in a way that's not going to hurt anybody, in a constructive way. But yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And we knew that this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, eh? I don't know if that happens to you folks, but we're hoping, with the book and that, again, maybe you can use that as a tool. The book says, maybe that's helpful. Good. Yeah. And actually I think one of the first drawings, Dave, that you did on that was, we kind of came up with this concept of the three agents poking this hornet's nest, and we're analyzing what's going on. And it's on the back of the book. I know it's small, which is a bit of a segue. We've got sticker as well. And part of actually when you're writing these books and you decide, okay, how do we put the template together? How do you format it so that it's available on, some sort of e-commerce platform? Which one do you choose? What about for the physical book? I'll tell you what, it was, there are websites and stuff that give you some sort of, but it's impossible to, when you've got a full-time job and you're doing these things, to try and figure out what's the best way. So long story short, obviously we had limited amount of time to get the cover done. So we used some of the tools with Amazon. So that kind of limited what we could do from a picture point of view. But Dave's insight and his talent really showed to kind of get our concepts down and draw it up. So that said, we've got something special coming. I have to talk to Dave about it a little bit, and there's the agents for the VIPs. But I will just give you one hint. If you would like to pick an agent number, anybody actually is on this, let us know. Give us your favorite number that's not taken yet, and there's something coming your way for the VIPs for sure on that. There we go, 007. Awesome. I'm glad I didn't pick 7. So 007 for Scott. Make a note of that, Shelly, if you can. If any of you send us in the chat or email, but if you think of it now, just let us know. And that'd be great. We'll get you down as official Agents of Chaos. Why Agents of Chaos, guys? I know that's not on our thing here, but just take a minute here. I know we were talking about it. We didn't want to be called Agents of Agile or DevOps or anything. Why do we pick Chaos? Do you guys remember?
I think because our poking the hornet's nest was causing a lot of chaos in the boardrooms, wasn't it?
I think that the after effect of the hornets flying around is where the chaos comes in. But yeah, usually I mean, Donovan, you touched on it. The OODA loop is we're trying to take the chaos and kind of remove the friction, the kind of agitated hornets, and the chaos around it. Is because that's what I remember walking into a lot of the organizations. Is as soon as you poke that hornet's nest once, there's absolute chaos, as some of us might actually recognize in these days as well. Is when companies go through kind of change, you actually find pockets of chaos where you just have to go and poke. So yes, it's they kind of go hand in hand, is poking the hornet's nest followed by chaos, getting some order, and then coming back to poke the hornet's nest again, which is where Donovan said is we have to do this again and again.
And I think to add to that, when we were talking about what agents we want to be, I think the reason why we tagged ourselves as the agents of chaos is to keep a little bit of humbleness within what we were trying to do, because we can guarantee that we can poke the hornet's nest and cause the chaos, which will cause for a need for change. But we didn't want to be arrogant enough to say that we can solve every one of those chaoses that we would cause. But that chaos is good chaos. You know, that's what I think every organization needs, because what happens is, like Donovan said, people get comfortable in their ways and they don't want to, excuse my French, but stir the shit. And by being agents of chaos, the one thing we could do is, you know what? There's chaos. Now go ahead and do it. But it was fun.
No, I've had several customer meetings where the value that I added was I asked a question that forced all of the people from other parts of the company to finally have that conversation that they had never had before. And I'll ask the right question, and I don't speak for the rest of the meeting. Like, Donovan, this was so valuable. I'm like, I'm glad. I was like, I asked you like one question that was so, I don't know, profound or so toxic or so touchy that when they finally start having, like, I didn't know you guys were doing that. My team's doing that. And all of a sudden, like, all this value and started coming out of it. And all I asked was the right question, right? Like you said, just poke it just correctly, and you can just step away from it and just let it work its way out, because they're smart people. But a lot of them don't know what the other people in the organization are doing. And that meeting that you're having is that opportunity to bring them all to the table and allow you to go ahead and just drop that grenade in the middle and then let them figure out that, yeah, like we can fix this ourselves. We just didn't know who else we needed to talk to in our company. But thanks for asking that question. Because had I not asked that question, they'd all left the meeting having no idea that that was even a problem, or thank God we didn't talk about that thing, right? Because they didn't want to talk about it. So that's a very valid point.
I'm very averse to chaos as a security person. I believe in managing risk very carefully, but it's funny how working with people like Matthew and Willy it's really helped me embrace this kind of thing more. It's really helped change my viewpoints and help me embrace more agile type of security and DevSecOps that I call myself now. So it's been a huge shift in the past 2 years for me understanding this. I came from a very risk-averse background, so it's been kind of cool embracing chaos essentially.
Change is coming, and you have to expect it and wrap your entire process around the fact that change is coming, right? And that's what Agile is so good at, right? Agile is so good about let's take the change, let's prioritize it, let's show you what you want. And the moment you show them something, they're going to want to change it. Like, oh, that looks awesome. I didn't think it was going to look like that. How about we do this? Like, fine, no problem. Let's put it on the backlog. Let's prioritize it. And we're going to show you something next week that's going to be closer to what you want. And you're constantly making these little adjustments. And what's cool is you end up where you're supposed to end up. Because if I just kept running this way for 6 months and not showing you anything, by the time I showed it to you, oh my gosh, like it would have been so off. We'd have wasted so much time and money. But making these little adjustments, I always tell people, if I'm lost in a city and I'm trying to get to the bus station, I'm going to ask everyone I pass that I think can verify that I'm going in the right direction. Am I still going to the bus station? All right, great. Thank you. Am I bus station this way, right? I'm constantly getting that confirmation that I'm going in the right direction. I don't assume I'm going in the right direction and end up at the airport. I'm like, oh, damn. I got to turn around for 6 months and walk this way to get to the bus station. I'm going to ask everyone I can. And you can do that in software. Every sprint review is that opportunity to say, are we still going in the right direction? And if not, make that pivot that you need to make. I love Agile. And I think that's why DevOps is such a natural transition for me, because I believe once you're really, really good at Agile, when you're really producing increments of shippable software every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, it shines a really bright light on how bad you are at deploying software. Because I've been delivering value every 2 weeks, but you still haven't seen it in production. And people start asking the hard questions. I'm like, hold on, I was at a sprint review a month ago. Like, why is that feature not on our website yet? Oh, well, our DevOps is really, well, we don't even have DevOps. It's a very manual process of deploying software. We got to get all these approvals. There's always red tapes. The security guy's killing me. Kevin just won't let me ship anything. It's just horrible.
Boy,
like,
this sounds like this sounds like I'm listening to one of my meetings this morning.
Exactly, right? But what's really cool is that being really good at Agile is this beautiful catalyst to force, it's a forcing function to get good at DevOps, right? That CI/CD, that people process, getting the security and the quality all in the room and in sync together. I loved it. And I think that's why it was a natural transition. Being a diehard Scrum fan, diehard Agilist, I got to that point really quickly where, like, why is it taking so long to ship our software? Like, how do we automate as much as we possibly can? So DevOps was a natural, as I think Sam Guckenheimer would always say, DevOps is the second decade of Agile. If you've done Agile really well, like, it's the natural next step for you.
It's been a more natural fit for my own security philosophies and practice as well. Like it seems like a natural progression. It's not forced or artificial. Like it fits with everything the way it's going. So like to me, I mean, being a logical person in a lot of ways, it just makes sense. So that's why for me, it's been a very natural thing to embrace. And that's why I continue to firmly believe it's about the people and culture and the mindset shift over throwing shiny tools at it, which is why like and that's become a very firm belief for me.
Yeah, your tools are going to come and go anyway, right? Like, so don't fall in love with a piece of technology because it's going to be obsolete here. It's going to be replaced with something better. And you need to be open to review that new technology because it might just multiply your velocity as a company. So you don't fall in love with the products that you use. And as working on the Azure side, I go to customers and they're ashamed to tell me they're using Jenkins. I'm like, I don't care what pipeline you've built. As long as it's running in Azure, I don't care how you get there. Like use whatever tool chain you want. Like, I just want your workloads in Azure. That's my end goal. So I'll help you with whatever products that you have because the products are simply not important. What I need you to be doing are the DevOps best practices, infrastructure as code, shifting left quality and security, having those tough conversations, value stream mapping, focusing on the thing that hurts the most and making sure that you're delivering value. If you're doing all those things, like the tools will work themselves out.
It sounds like the editing process to me. It really does. It's exactly what you guys did. And I've worked with a lot of authors about this topic, and you are, like I said, you're practicing what you preach because you probably didn't realize it at the time, but you know, we are in intervals. We're reviewing the content. I'm asking the hard questions. I'm giving you tasks to complete, and you're free to do them however you want to do them and return them back. And we have to just make sure that we're delivering value. And I think that we did that pretty well as a team. And we collaborated different time zones, different personalities, different writers. And I really think that you guys did such a wonderful job with that. And it really did show that not only did you know how to write about it, you knew how to put it into practice. And so just hats off to that.
Thanks.
Very cool.
And you know, one of the things early on when we tried to kick this off, we were thinking Scrum isn't going to work. We can't wait 3 weeks. We're not meeting every day. We can't do the ceremonies. So we'll use Lean, and we used Lean with, funny enough, Azure DevOps. This is not a plug for any particular tool or anything, but we did use Azure DevOps because something Willy used day in, day out. I was familiar with it from VST whenever. So it worked great, and all of us could use it. And we used it as our Kanban board and our way of attaching, information on our stories and getting our definition done and all that good stuff. So we did practice best we could doing this in between our sleep time, and it worked out pretty well. I mean, there's some things we'd like to improve on, which is part of continuous improvement, which is, what we do. So it's all good. But like you said, just rolling back just for a second on the critical conversations, we have to have them. If we're not allowed to have those critical conversations, we're just not going to grow as an organization. So we need to have them and then follow it up because the hornets are let out. So you gotta, you're going to run, you're going to scream. You might get stung, but you're not, hopefully, if you are allergic, you're going to have your EpiPen sitting there. So you're not going to die. But that said, we're going to make change happen. And unfortunately for those who are trying to stop change from happening, even if it's subconsciously, well, we know what's going to happen. Right? You're not going to be around. You're going to be a Blockbuster, right? You're going to be Dodo Bird.
So maybe you'll be a GameStop.
Exactly. Good. Well, I know we're just coming up to 2:00 now, so I would like to say a big thank you, first of all, to everyone that came and took the time out. I'd like to thank the VIPs for amazing conversations. Thank you for supporting us. I'd like to thank as well, Scott and Lauren, who were part of the making this book happen. And of course, my agents, my fellow agents and colleagues, which again, this book would not be here without you. This is a collaborative effort, and you can tell it shows. And I'd also like to thank Shelley for her fantastic assistance in dealing with disruptive technology. And all of that together, we seem to pull it off. So thank you once again. I hope to talk to you soon.